ball inside to Gunston. He's still kept it in. Can kick his first of the year. Gunston, he's swung it around.
Trying to get around. Gibson some behind the Shepherd.
Both in real discomfort. It's going to be the Cats who have a happy Easter. And the hole for the Hawks gets a little bit deeper.
Well, there's great expectation of a spirited response by the Hawks today after a slow start to the season, but in the finish, it was more of the same. Their skipper, Jarryd Roughead, joins us on the chair after a 0-4 start. Can I just say, Ruffy, though, despite the circumstances, 0-4, it's just great to have you here because this time last year we were all a bit worried about you.
Yeah, thanks, Jarryd. Obviously, nice to be here, but be better if it was under different circumstances.
No doubt, but at least you've got some perspective given the trials and the tribulations that you have gone through. But that aside, you're the captain of a club who have ridden a huge wave of success, and at the present time you don't look any closer to solving the problems.
Yeah, fair call. I think you know, the last probably 2 weeks have been very unlike us. To look at what we've been able to do the past few years and then put up those two displays, I guess, aren't up to scratch. And you know, we sit here zipping 4, but it's not all doom and gloom. I heard Kingy say before, you know, 3 weeks ago we were saying the same about other teams, and we can look at that and think, well, why can't it be us?
What's your style like as captain? I mean, it's a very challenging time to take over the captaincy, and while things aren't going particularly well, are you having meetings with the senior leadership group, or how are you getting amongst all the playing group?
I think it's what I've learnt from blokes in the past, like Mitch and Hodgie, I guess. Not much needs to change in terms of it's just the bloke out the front that's changed.
Yeah.
I'm still delivering the messages that those blokes have in previous years, but obviously this is a challenging time for the footy club. You know, we've blokes that have got there since the end of 2011 haven't experienced anything like this. All they've known is grand finals and finals. So it's a matter of educating these guys and, you know, helping each other work through it, I guess.
Yeah, Ruffy, welcome to the fire and brimstone early decision on Luke Hodge. Had to suspend him that first week. Just run us through, well, you know, roughly what happened there and how it affected you and how you approached it and got through that decision.
Brandon, I mean, it's 6 weeks ago now, so we've spoken about it a fair bit. You know, and to be fair, it's been dealt with. You know, I've said it before, if Hodgie was in the same position, he does the exact same thing. So it's not as if just because he's been the bloke that's out the front, he gets leeway. He accepted it and we moved on.
Can I ask about your own game? Since you've been through your illness, has it affected any of your physicality, any of your ability to run? Has it changed anything about you? That may be a difficult one to answer, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I did the pre-season coming in and you know, felt as if I didn't miss a beat in pre-season, but obviously coming into the game and understanding that it has changed in 18 months, you've got to adapt, and like everyone, probably at Hawthorn, we're just struggling a little bit to adapt to where the game's going.
You had a really interesting confrontation with Stephen Motlop today, and there looked like there was a little bit of conversation. I think you suggested he might have done something twice. What was it that upset you in this exchange here? And there was certainly a little bit said.
Oh, I just, you know, heat of the moment. I think here when I look away, Mott's got me in the back, and I was just like, you know, hit me front on. It'd be nice if it was that way, but I suppose that's periods in games where you're trying to fire up the boys and get boys going. Billy Hartung laid a pretty good tackle on Motts, who had a pretty good game. I think he had 3 goals and 30 touches. So if you can try and get in the inside of blokes' heads, you know, it might help us a little bit.
Ruffy, you know, I see you're obviously playing probably more and more midfield over the last few seasons, but tremendously valuable forward. It seems like Hawthorn needs you more forward at the moment. Where do you see your game predominantly this season in terms of positioning for you?
I've always considered myself a forward, and if I'm not getting into the game, that's when I try and get into the midfield, or, for instance, today play a bit of ruck. I guess it's just, if I'm not having a great day in the forward line, it's a chance to get up amongst the prune and get it that way. You know, you've got to, as you know, the forward line can be a bit hard if it's not coming in and not coming in on a silver platter. So at times when you've got to go into the middle and get it yourself, and that's not a bad thing as well.
You pretty much have the licence to do that whenever.
Not whenever. I think, you know, when the time's right. Obviously, if Gunston's on the wing and O'Brien's in the ruck, I'm not going to put myself in the middle. You know, you've got to still make sure there's a target there in the forward line to kick to.
How did you explain to yourselves the performance up against the Gold Coast? Because surely you senior guys would have got together and examined every element of your being, whether you're close enough, whether you have separated ways, whether you're accountable, whether you satiated your strive for success. How have you dealt with those losses, because it's gone from one loss to another?
I think you've just got to invest back into the footy club. I guess, you know, most footy clubs are going to go through something like this, and it's a matter of making the decision on whether or not you want to change it quick or allow it to happen for a long period of time. Now, I think we've got the group that can do this. I mean, we've got, you know, I think 8 or 9 All-Australians on the list, so it's not as if we're a poor list that's going through a big change. It's just a matter of investing back in the footy club, because it's a pretty good footy club to be at, and knowing that things can just turn.
Do you feel blokes are as hungry as they were? We're talking about 4-time premiership players, 3-time premiership players, guys that we see over the last decade do things that we're in awe of, and yet collectively you're now nowhere near that sort of group.
Well, I still think the hunger's there. I mean, we get 4 blokes in from other clubs to want to be successful, and you know, it's not a matter of just thinking, oh no, we've done that, we'll let these guys take over. I mean, these guys have come to the footy club to want to be a part of a successful club. Now, I want that to still happen, because you know, I'm hopefully still 3 or 4 years away from finishing. I don't want to just keep going like this.
In a football sense, is the team hurting from the loss of Sam Mitchell and Jordan Lewis?
Oh, I don't think so. I guess, you know, that's been spoken about a fair bit as well, and it's going to be continually spoken about while we keep going through this little rut, I guess. But you look at blokes like Tommy Mitchell, who I think's had 4 games over 30 touches. Jaeger's come in and done a pretty good job. The emergence of Langford and these guys that still get a chance to go through the midfield, whereas Louis and Mitch probably took up a fair chunk of the midfield time that these blokes are getting now.
It's interesting, Ruffy, you talk about a list that has 9 All-Australians, and you don't think it needs to change that much, but there'll be another 3 or 4 that probably go at the end of this year, and they'll all be All-Australians. So it does seem to be a turning of the tide, if you like, from the guys that have been at the top for 6 to 8 years. At some stage, that has to come to an end, doesn't it? You can't rely on those same players. Is there enough quality coming up underneath to rely upon?
Well, there is. I mean, you get O'Meara and Mitchell in from 2 footy clubs, and Mitchell's been a fairly big part of that Sydney midfield over the previous few years. And then you look at blokes like Burton and Sicily, who Burton's a first-round draft pick, and Sis has played a number of games now. They both stood up and played pretty well today. So, you know, we may not have gone to the draft, but we've traded in some pretty young kids that are established and ready to go now. So it's not as if we're thinking it's going to take 3 or 4 years for these blokes. We've got them in for the here and now.
How have players dealt with obvious, I guess, distortions of the way you've paid players over the years? You've got 3-time premiership players, probably not getting as much as a young kid like O'Meara or a Ty Vickery, who's been at a club that hasn't been that successful.
Oh, I don't think that's been spoken about amongst the playing group. I think you've seen a number of us have come out and said, if this helps us to win, then why not go for it? I guess a lot of us have sacrificed in the past, and that's meant success as a team, and I think that's what we're searching for still. It's still team success. It's not about just getting heavy pockets.
I find it amusing that people are already talking about Clarko moving on, and it's time for him to go, because I know the pride that he's got and how much he wants to turn this group around. And I can't imagine him leaving a place in worse shape than when he arrived, and he'd want to build it up before he even thought about doing anything else. But have you spoken to him, or has he addressed the players about these rumours and about maybe just trying to refocus on what the group's trying to achieve?
No, and I don't think he needs to, Bung. I think you know him as well as I do, and he's one of the most passionate blokes about our footy club that I've ever seen for a footy club. So the idea of him going somewhere else, to him, would anger a lot of people, or anger him, sorry. So I don't think there's any need for him to address it to us. But also, if you were the playing group, you'd know that he's not thinking about that either, or it's even a worry.
Can I ask, so specifically, what would you do as captain to the guys that are clearly dropped significantly, and they're stars? They're guys like Burgoyne and Gibson and Bruce and Rioli. They're household names to us, and we've idolised them for a long period of time, but they're clearly not what they've been over the last few years through the first month. What do you do as captain specifically for those guys to try and get them rolling?
It's just staying positive amongst them. There's no need to blast them in front of the group. That's not going to help anyone. I think getting back to the basics, you look at errors we made today. I saw the start where you guys spoke about fundamental basics and errors that we were making, and that's, 20 minutes to go, 20 minutes into the third quarter, we've got a shot to go 10 points down. Now, we're not that far away, and errors are costing us, and it shows that within game. So it's a matter of sticking fat and staying, working hard on the training track and working through it.
Yeah, Ruffy, a lot of water under the bridge, but my own circumstance, I was captain for quite a while at the Lions, and I was in on selection meetings. I had to go to team selection and was in on a few meetings where, legends of the club, premiership legends, their selection was questioned in selection meetings late in their career. Are you part of team selection on a weekly basis? And how would you handle that? I know it's a long way down the track, but if that circumstance arises this season.
No, I don't go to match committee or anything like that. That's what the coaches do. Clark obviously gets a few of us together every now and again. We have little meetings to decide, to work out our opinion, what he's thinking. So it's not as if I get a say on what happens within the team. I mean, that's what the coaches are doing in match committee. That's why sometimes they can spend 3 or 4 hours. So no wonder you got pretty tired doing it.
No, I stopped going after a while, mate. Once my name started coming up for our selection, I got concerned.
If you were at match committee, what would you do about Sam Mitchell this week?
Oh, well, mate, I've just come off this game today. So, is he going to play? Did his ankle pretty bad on the weekend, didn't he, on
Put
Thursday
your hand
night?
up for him now.
Me?
Just tag him.
Mail is he's desperate to play.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Ruffy, put yourself in game mode this coming week, and so 50-50 ball bouncing between you and Mitch running from opposite directions.
Yeah.
Does it cross your mind that that's Sam Mitchell, or is it just an opponent? Is it possible to not know that it's Mitch coming, and how do you approach that context?
If you asked him the exact same question, we'd both know the answer. It's just
he'd try and chop you in half.
100%.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens.
What's a pass mark from here? I hope it happens, by the way.
I love it.
What is a pass mark? What do you look at to get out of the next short term? Do you break the year up into blocks now that it's got started this way or not?
I don't think you can look too far ahead. I think we said that last week, and we could only look forward to this week. And I think the same thing needs to happen. We can only look as far as West Coast. Now, as cliche as that is, unfortunately, that's the reality. We've just got to look forward to look at West Coast, go through a review system as we would, prepare the same way as we have the previous 4 weeks, and look to beat them on Sunday.
Well, we're all looking forward to that meeting in the middle of the MCG. Ball in the middle, Roughead from one end, Mitchell from the other. Who's going to chop each other in half? I like the description. Appreciate your time tonight. You've had a really tough 18 months, but it's great to see you in the chair and healthy and vibrant, and you've got a big job on the field ahead of you. Appreciate your time, Ruffy, and good luck.